And so when we're talking about, I just want to tell you, just real quickly, here are some of the more traditional forestry goals that you might integrate into a conservation system. You know, income from forest products, timber management, wildlife management, you can read them as well as I can, water quality protection, forest health, non-game wildlife habitat, biodiversity, on and on and on. And there's no right goal or wrong goal. Remember, as an agent, you're working for the landowner. The landowner outlines their goals and objectives. And then you provide the technical assistance and guide them towards a realization of their outcomes. And maybe along the way you tell them, no, you really can't drain that wetland. That type of thing. So, next. I think this is it.
So we brought that definition. We're going to cycle back to that definition for sustainable farming because I wanted to introduce you to this crosswalk. All right? So for here, we're just going to go through the, fairly quickly, just go through the definitions. For the first one is generating revenue. Okay, so over here we can see, well, integrated pest management. Pest management will help, irrigation, water management, nutrient management. A lot of managements will help generate income. Mostly indirectly, though. Okay, well, how? Well, nutrient management may save time and cost of fertilizer. So if you have a nutrient management plan, it's going to tell you the right place, the right time, and the right rate. So you're not over-applying, you're not wasting your fertilizer. That, in turn, will save you money. Okay? Pest management, same thing. It's going to tell you the right rate, when to do it, determine different thresholds, so you don't even spray until you come up to one economic threshold, we'll call it. And so what that is you're saying that I can deal with this much loss before I even spray. Well, by doing that, you're saving the cost of spraying from the first time you see it. So it will save you money. Reduced tillage is, instead of tilling the whole field, you may do one little swath. That's going to save you time with the tractor, gas. All this will lead to savings in revenue. Energy efficiency. Okay, same thing. These are the different practices that you help. Reduced tillage. Reduced tillage is probably one of the better ones that you can use to help you be a sustainable farm. You're going to see it over and over and over in all these definitions. So that's a really good one to have. Irrigation management. When do I apply the water? How much water do I apply? That again is going to save you money and energy because you're operating a pump at that time. On-farm equipment improvements. Maybe there's a way that you can take that pump and you can put a solar panel on there to help generate electricity for the pump so you don't have to run gas. Okay? Improve soils. There we go again. Reduce tillage management. Crop rotation. Crop rotation is very important not only for improving your soils but breaking pest cycles and pest management. Okay? Cover crops. Probably the biggest thing that you can do to improve your soils. That'll add organic matter. It's going to cycle those nutrients better. So nutrients that would have been lost because they weren't utilized by the crop that you were growing, you can put cover crops in there. The roots will go down, grab those nutrients, recycle them back up to the surface so the next year's crop can reuse those.
Chris, this is both in terms of nitrogen fixers and just the crop residue. I mean the cover crop residue.
Pardon me?
This is like a green manure, the cover crop residue you're talking about.
Yep.
In terms of plant.
Yep.
It's also nitrogen fixers too, right?
Absolutely. There's legumes that you can put in there so that legumes will save you having to use nitrogen the next year, So.
Free service.
Yeah, absolutely. Improve water quality. Again, cover crops. Keep your soil covered. In the wintertime, if you have a late, you got to schedule your planting for your harvest. Don't go too late because it's going to be too late to plant your cover crop. These are things the farmer thinks about so that he makes sure that he can keep his soil covered and he's not going to have soil loss. Fencing to keep livestock out of the water. Riparian herbaceous cover so that will filter any kind of soil erosion that you may have so that it doesn't end up in your streams or your ponds. Air quality, field water, hedgerows, pest management. Again, we talked a little bit about that for timing of your applications. Mulching, all this will help improve your air quality. Soil erosion, we already touched base on that. Irrigation, you'd be surprised at how much soil erosion is caused by over-applying water on your fields. Okay, if you knew the right amount and timing to do that, that's going to help reduce soil erosion caused by irrigation. Now that you've gone through all that, now it's time to make your management decisions now. Again, for crops, diversity is key. You got to think to yourself, well, is my farm going to be organic, conventional, or am I going to transition to organic? Part of my farm could be, if it's a conventional farm, it's going to take you 3 years to become an organic farm. So maybe I take a little bit of my farm and transition to being organic. Okay?
Why does it take 3 years first?
Because of the soils and stuff, they've already been receiving fertilizers and everything, so they have a transitional period so that you can transition over time and remove those nutrients. And there's probably different levels for reaching organic, because it's going to be different for livestock use and for crops.
But whoever's certifying you would test for those residues.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Make a crop calendar so you can at least have something on paper to say, all right, I know May's coming up, I'm going to plant this crop, but guess what? You don't control the weather, so you need to make sure that can be adjustable. Okay, again, back to the wet fields. All right, we're going to make sure that we plant those later, okay, because we want to make sure we get the best yields out of our crops, and we want to make sure that we're having the least amount of impact on those soils. Crop rotations. What are my crop rotations? You want to start thinking not only this year, but 3-5 years out. How am I going to rotate those crops? Why am I rotating those crops? Do I want to break a pest cycle so that I don't have to spray? There's different things that you need to go out there. There's really some good resources that I gave you on the paper that will be posted up to the website. And these are SARE documents, so Sustainable Agriculture through Research and Education. They've made some great products out there that are available for people. Think of your pest management schedule and your irrigation scheduling. Okay, very important decisions to make. Grazing, make a grazing calendar. The same hold true. Again, go back to how much land do I have available for pasture? How many animals can I put on that pasture? I want to make sure I get the most out of my pastures, but I want to treat them in a manner so it'll be sustainable. Again, what fields are going to be wet in the season? Graze those later. So as you're going to break these fields up into different grazing fields. So you just take the wet fields and you rotate that later in the cycle.
Chris, does that mean that 1 acre per 1,000 pounds of livestock, that's a rotational limit, in other words, or that would be less?
That's more to determine the amount of animal units that you should have on your farm, and that's just a really, really rough estimate. You need to start thinking about the condition of your pasture as well, and that's gonna change that 1 animal per 1,000. 1 animal unit per acre. So you got to think of these things. So if you have poor conditions, that acreage is going to go up actually. So, but that's just a rough estimate to use. The other thing is, where's the water going to come from for the livestock?
All right, same sort of issue here. Let's transition from agronomy to forestry now. So now, what are we going to do with the information that we've picked up in our resource assessment from forestry? Well, first of all, you want to make sure that, again, we're going to go back and make sure what you're trying to do, how is it going to fit into your farm? Eric's been talking, farming is annually a very intensive process, the production of annual crops. Forestry doesn't necessarily produce an annual crop every year. So I think one of the things you need to think about if you're the farmer is, how is my forest management plan going to fit into my whole farm plan? What do I manage for? Am I managing for timber, fuel wood, maple syrup, mushrooms, wildlife, clean water? Again, do I have enough land to do what I want to do in a specific thing? If you, and that's in 70 acres, they probably do. Remember this about forestry, is you can't do everything on 1 acre. Everybody thinks of multiple use forestry. I can do wildlife, clean water, timber, recreation, aesthetics. You can accomplish a lot of those, but you can't necessarily do everything on 1 acre. And then again, the site conditions of your woodlands, how do they affect the health of your forest? And eventually, when you're thinking about forestry, you know, my experience with farmers is that they're busy all year, right? Taking care, right? So if you have a forest management plan, it's important to understand who's going to do the work. Are you going to do the work? Do you have the time? Do you have the expertise? Do you have the equipment? Do you have the training and the ability to do it? Or are you going to work with say a private consulting forester and a local wood processor or harvester or something like that to do your work? So these are the kind of questions you need to ask yourself.
Chris, can you raise or browse animals in forests? Is that done in New England?
Traditionally, we've liked to keep livestock out of the forest, but there is a practice called silvopasture, which is widely used in the southern and mid part of the country. Different forest types, mostly in southern pine plantations. It's, you know, different situations. It's difficult to use here because of our seasons, because of our soil types, because of our presence of water, that type of thing. Can it be done? Yes. The advice, it's difficult to do though. It's not. Right. Right.
Because then you know you're going to have the least amount of impact, negative impact on that forest land.
Right.
There were some people that built a summer conference a few years ago that I went to that in Western Mass that are raising heirloom cattle in a forest environment. And they've been doing it for 10 or 15 years, so pretty successfully,
Yep.
small scale.
But you got to think if you're stocking raised, you got to look at your tree density, because again, it comes down to the forage that's going to be available. So there's a science behind that that you really got to learn. And that's why I said, don't even attempt to do it until you become a good grazer out here. Then you start going into the fields.
If you're gonna use forest products, think about the forest products. I got a friend who lets his neighbor tap his sugar maples and in return has all the firewood he needs for the winter.
Correct.